And we're done! Yay! Oh, that was such a good game, dude. Again, I'm biased. I think I will be, having played all of them, but also kind of having played them recently and not having like a full decade, 2 decades, or only playing one game, or only knowing about this through other people. Like having my own personal experience and it still being fresh in the last 12 months. It's, oh my god, this is like one of my favorite series now. If whatever they come out with next, I will eat it up. I will be there. I think that if I would rate it, yeah, I think I would rate it like a solid maybe 8 out of 10. Just because it had, for me, it felt like it had a little bit of everything, and sometimes, I know for some people that's not necessarily good, but I think Capcom did a really good job in terms of like, I don't know what direction they're going in after this, but it felt like a really good love letter to all the games they've played and they've like made in the past. Because I mean, you guys heard me most of the time. I was like shocked or excited when they brought something back that I'm like, oh, that's from that game, or oh, no way, they're doing that thing, or oh, he said this thing and she did that. Like, there were so many moments where I was like pleasantly surprised, because those were things in the previous games that either they were good or they were just like, it was such like a fun thing or like a really good benefit. So I will say that the crafting system, especially for Grace, was a bit tedious, because having to use blood and scrap metal to like make a lot of the things that she needed to survive, or maybe that's just me because I used them a lot, but sometimes it was hard to find them, which I guess is the whole point of the game, but like relying on it so much and then only realizing that we could have done other things once you left the hospital, and it was like, but I guess that makes sense, because then once you get to a different area, you kind of are like, okay, I know this song and dance. I'm just gonna use what we had done in the previous area to do this. And then I kind of like the story design of, you only get little pieces of Leon at the very beginning, and then you play more as Grace, and then you're like hungry. Well, at least for me, I was like, I want to play Leon. Like, where is he? Why is his part so short? But then as the game kept changing, then it like started to reverse, where she was having less screen time and he was starting to take up more. And I think that was a really good way of doing that, especially for a lot of people who are probably coming to get this game because of him. So that was really good on the writer's part. The script wasn't bad. I liked it. Compared to like the 7th game and maybe the 6th game, like this one had really... I will say though that maybe Grace is not my favorite character out of all the girls that we've played in the games. I mean, when you compare them to like no one can compare to Ada, no one can compare to Jill, like Sherry, what's her name, Claire. I think it's because I think I wouldn't have thought about Grace, or not really enjoying Grace's character the way she is, if they hadn't already set up that she was like an FBI agent. Because I feel like when you're in that type of position, you're a lot more competent, or... But then again, she's a technical analyst. She's never been... That means she's probably never been in the field. So I should give her... I should give her the benefit of the doubt for that. But there was a lot of times where she was really... She acted more like she was a teenager than she was a fully grown adult. And I was like, why are you asking all these questions? Like, you should be asking like the more important questions, especially as someone who works in federal, like, I don't know, enforcement. I feel like she should be more inclined to like focus on what is needed, instead of like asking like, what's going on and who is that and why am I here? It's like, we don't need that kind of exposition as gamers. It's like, that's what we're asking internally, so you should be asking something else. But I guess because of her trauma, they're kind of trying to play it like, oh, she's not thinking straight, so that's why she's not really clear in the head. Did that change towards the end? I don't really know. I'm not really sure. I don't think so. I guess she got a little bit more of a... Not a backbone, but I guess she got a little bit more... Like less what is it, nervous about everything. And I will say, I will give her credit, because I think she is one of the... I think they're trying to make a different kind of heroine type of character where all the other ones are very much like assertive and they're very like I know what my goal is and I'm gonna do it and I know exactly what to think and what to say. And so maybe it is like she's like the one that's like, I don't know what's going on, this is so unrelated to me. Like it's kind of giving like a flavor of Ethan, but Ethan felt more driven because he was doing it for love and she was doing it for a job. So I'm just kind of like, I can see that, I guess. And then yeah, so that's fine. The villains, like they always say, a good story is nothing without a good villain, and I think Victor Gideon was like whatever. I don't know. I felt nothing about him. I was just like, he's just gonna die. He's whatever. And he kind of was like a very cookie cutter villain. Who was the guy in the trench coat? Vino? What was his name? I don't remember. Nero? He had a weird name. He was fucking cool. But then he got offed and like, he was just like, okay, bye, loser. So I don't know what his deal was. I was like, I thought he was gonna be the one to kind of like be the overarching shadow of all of this and be like, haha, well then, you know, and then blah, blah, blah. But it really wasn't. It really pivoted back to Victor Gideon, which I guess makes more sense because it's like, we've been seeing him since the whole game. But I wish that we got a little bit more of that other bad guy because he was kind of cool. He was giving like Wesker, he was giving like Devil May Cry energy. Like he was so refreshing as a villain. So I'm like, I would have liked to see more of him again, but maybe they didn't want to go. They've been going so far down the camp road of this game that maybe they were like, maybe we'll pull back on the villain being really goofy and just focus on what we're good at, which is making one-dimensional villains who just turned into mutants. The people will like that. They're here for Leon. And oh my god, Leon got his thing at the end and I was so happy. I'm actually itching to like replay it again right now. Like that's how much I like it. I think the replayability was good. I'm trying to think of what else I liked. The UI was actually pretty good. They kept the same one that they had from the last two games, so that made me happy. I think the hitboxes were a little jank. Sometimes I would click, especially when it was Grace. I don't know if it's because of the first person perspective, but there were times when I would click to make her do something and she just wasn't doing it. When Leon would do it, it was like he would do it almost instantly, so I was like, what is going on? I'm not sure if that's a mechanical issue or like a weird technical bug or if I'm just bad, but I was like, okay, whatever. The first person, if anyone has motion sickness like me, just use the motion blur settings. I think it did great because I didn't take any motion sickness pills for the last pretty much third of the game, and I didn't throw up when I was playing as Grace, so I think it's fine. Leon's hitbox was kind of jank. I felt like there was a lot of times that he would get hit when he wasn't even looking at them, and I was like, or I was trying to get around the enemies, and even though there was space there, the enemies were, it was like he couldn't move and I would keep getting hit, and I was like, oh my god, please stop. So maybe they'll adjust that in the future, or if not, then it's whatever, just be careful. I also find that the speed in this game was probably like the thing that I was like, what the hell is going on? Holding shift didn't really speed them up. If anything, they just went from a casual walk to like a slightly less casual walk. It wasn't like outright like, oh my god, I have to get out of here. So there were many times where I would get hit or I would die because I ended up just not getting out of their AoE or like their hitbox range fast enough, and I was like, well, what the hell am I gonna do now? So that's what happened with that. Love the parry system. It was very quick. I feel like I got the rhythm of it very quickly, and parrying for me is always like something that's really tough in games like this, especially when the camera is not like, when it's a little closer than you would like. Like in Souls games, there's a little bit more of an FOV, so you can kind of see everything around you and then catch a parry in your peripheral. But this one, it was like, I had to really like pay attention to like what was going on behind, especially Leon and, oh no, yeah, only Leon, because he's the only one that parried. The enemies were fun. There was a lot of variation. I think that's what I like too, because this game kept going to different locations. The enemies changed a lot. Some of them, you know, they're old favorites. So you're like, oh my god, you're here! It's the dog! It's the fucking regenerator! Woohoo! Like, and then there were other enemies where it was like, oh my god, like that banshee screeching woman. Although I swear there was one like that in another Resi game, but I can't remember. Maybe there wasn't. And then the whole thing that they set up for in like the Capcom reveal where they said, oh, the zombies are like, they're like smarter now. They like react to certain things and you have to use the environment to like get around them or have them interact with each other so that you can survive. And I was like, I thought that was going to be throughout the whole game. Turns out it's only really like at the beginning when you're in like the hospital area, and then it kind of just goes back to like the zombies being generic, just like, oh, they just walk around and you can just shoot them and stuff. I mean, maybe if I do like a run, or if somebody does a run where they're like full stealth, you know, they only kill by knifing, or they don't try to trigger any like big encounters or like wave encounters or something, and you have to do that. Maybe those enemies at the end of the game did act like the enemies at the beginning, where it's like they interact with each other and then you can like trick them and stuff. But I found that like completely went out the window after we left that area. So I don't know, maybe that's just me. Enjoy it. All I'm gonna say is like enjoy it if you're at the hospital area, because that part was a lot of fun. But when it comes to like moving on to the next phase, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Like I even though it was fun, I am glad that they only isolated it to that, because it was stressful going through everything and having to like constantly just like stop and think like, okay, I need to do this because this enemy is going to do this, or I can't go there because this enemy is going to trigger that. And holy shit, if they did that for this entire game, I don't think anyone would be like enjoying it. After a certain like point, you're like, okay, well now this is fucking tedious and I want to quit. So I'm glad that they just did that for that, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna go back to the old song and dance of we're gonna shoot everything and woohoo. I'm surprised they didn't bring back the mine. There's certain weapons that I didn't realize that they didn't put in until it was over, and I was like, oh, normally in this situation you would like have this, like you'd have a mine, you'd have you know, those flame rounds, those lightning rounds, those stun rounds, you know, big ass like rocket launcher grenade, or was it rocket grenade launcher, and they didn't put those. I was like, oh, okay. It was very much just like axe and injections and bullets, and they were like, that's all you need. And honestly, I like that. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not one of those players that like does like ammunition. I'm not like some bomb lover, so I know there's a lot of gamers that like when they play Resident Evil, like that's how they like to survive, because maybe they're not good at, maybe that is something too, like if you're not really good at like shooting, this game could be tougher. Like for me, I was having the time of my life. I love flicks, I love headshots, like, and I feel like my reaction to a lot of things, even though it was a little messy, it was pretty smooth, so I was able to get through the game when there were a lot of like enemies coming at me. But maybe if you're not a person that like is good at shooting, or you don't really like that, you might be lacking like other types of arsenal that would have like compensated for that. And this one is way more like you kind of need to know or do that, or you know. But there's things, there's like environmental stuff. They have like stuff that can fall on them. They're all holding their own weapons, and they somehow give each other AoE damage, so there's ways to get around it. Leon can also throw shit back at them. Like it's fine. And I'm glad that they honored like what the players would have wanted in new games, which is so refreshing, because you see a lot of games in the last couple years where they're like, we want to change not even change the industry, but they're like, we just want to do something different. And in this one, they really were like, okay, what are all the best things that people like about our games? Let's just give them that, and then they should be happy. And I was very happy. Oh, the child sequence with Emily, I thought we were gonna have more of that. It felt kind of random now that I'm looking back on it, like having that moment where we were in the orphanage as her. But I guess I can kind of understand why they did that from like a storytelling perspective, because there's a lot of times where it's like with television, movies, and books. If you don't like put a little bit of spotlight on like what you consider important characters, the audience won't care about them, right? Like, there's so many NPCs that we know from previous games where they're supposed to be important to the main character or to the theme of the story. And then when something bad happens to them, you're like, well, I didn't know who they were. I don't give a fuck. You're like, did they talk to my character? I've only been told that they were great. Or they had one interaction. I didn't feel that connection. So, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to feel sorry. So maybe they were trying to do that for Emily because knowing that she went through that weird ordeal of like the cloned like zombie children and her trying to get out and then getting kidnapped, it kind of like it made me care about her a little bit more. And then at the end when they said there's a chance to save her, I was like, oh my god, yeah, please do it. Because if they hadn't done that, I might have just been like, I don't care, like, okay, sure. So it's little things like that where I'm like, okay, maybe there was a reason. And you know what, who doesn't love creepy children in horror games? I mean, there's a bingo card for that somewhere where it's like, oh my god, the child, she's giggling, oh no, and she's gone, whatever will we do? Like, it's shit like that. We were like, oh no. But was it necessary? Probably not. If they took that part out, I wouldn't like be mad about it. Oh, like the layout of the maps and the leveling. I guess I didn't understand the sheer size of the map. You kind of expect, at least at the beginning, like areas to not really be so large, and you kind of think you're gonna move on somewhere else. Or they're gonna layer each other. Maybe for me that's a visual thing, or like personal preference, but when things kept getting bigger horizontally, it was like hard for me to keep track of like, okay, I'm all the way over here and this is all the way over there, but then the map is showing that it's on a higher level, so then by the time I'm there, I'm confused because it's like, oh, it was all the way on the other side. So it's just little things like that that was, for me, I was like, oh my god. That's why I think I wasted a couple hours in the beginning of the stream, because I didn't know the staircase was a point that led to somewhere else. I thought that it led back upstairs to what I had already seen on the map, so I ignored it for like an hour. And then when I couldn't find anything, and then I was like, wait, I need to go back. Is that place actually connected to what I see? And then it wasn't. It was a whole new area. So I was like, well, okay. But I think it was just that. I think the hospital in itself was just a very specific, like, because it has all these unique things about it, maybe that's why. Because then everything kind of went back to normal. Like, after you leave the hospital, you're kind of just, like, Raccoon City and, like, even, like, what was that place called? Wrenwood Mills or something? They had pretty, like, basic maps where it wasn't hard to, like, navigate and go back, so there was that. Maybe it was confusing for me because I was just, like, I've never seen it before, but maybe when I play this again, not even if, when I play this again, because I know the layout now in my head, I might be able to like intuitively understand what they were going for when they made it. So yeah, I talked about the enemies, I talked about the villains, the main characters, the story, the level. I mean, there's nothing to say about the graphics and the art style because that's just, it's just good. No notes, that's it. I thought Alyssa would actually have a bit more of, I guess, a contribution to this game. But since I guess it is that Resident Evil Outbreak wasn't a game that they're like, even people were saying, they're like, don't get too attached to Resident Evil Outbreak. You don't have to play it. A lot of people were like, should I play that game first because her mom's in it? It's like, no. Like, she wasn't even really in it herself, okay? She was just one of the, like, 12 characters you could have picked. Yes, she does a little stuff for her like journalism plot or whatever, but it wasn't like completely like important. So it probably made sense why when she was in this game, they weren't like, we need to like build her backstory and we need people to care about her, because people were like, we don't even know who she is. Only that she's Grace's mom. So that was fine. I was gonna say at the very end too, when they showed the two photos of them, I do kind of like, in a little bit of a sense, it was like Spencer's like hope of like, you know, having Grace move on to Alyssa, and then Alyssa was the one that grew her up and she became a person that helped move Emily along, and now it's like the cycle of like the thing carrying forward into generations. So W. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say. I don't have anything to say about the game. Oh, other than Leon? Oh my god, Leon. There you go. That's all I'll say. I'm so glad. it didn't turn out to be the way it did. And you know what? I'm so happy that, yeah, I didn't get spoiled at all. That was a very satisfying watch. And I'm so glad that Leon had his moment. And then, like, I don't know if that really meant that he saved Raccoon City, though. I know that his whole thematic, like, part of this game is that, like, he feels guilty for what happened in the city, even though he wasn't from there, and he only showed up the same night. It wasn't his fault, but he like carries this like survivor's guilt that, like, probably from like seeing the other cops. I think that's what it is. I think he feels more attached to the fact that, like, the people that were ready to welcome him with open arms, they all got fucking nuked, so he just feels bad that he wasn't somebody who died along with them because he showed up kind of late. Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were gonna focus more on Raccoon City itself, and they kind of like turned the spotlight more on the fact that it was like, no, it's about like the virus and how there has been a cure waiting all along, kind of thing. So obviously, after what we saw in that fucking epilogue, that's not gonna be the fucking case. So I'm like, what was it for? Also, why is Chris's team so bad at cover up and cleanup? Like, why are you leaving bodies of people that you know for decades have been harvested and, like, taken by your enemies so they can reverse engineer what you've been doing and then use it against you in the next fucking game? Make it make sense. So I don't know where they're going with that. Also, how dare they not give Chris a voice line, or even a little bit of a teaser of where he is or what he's doing, or, you know, what he's wearing. Sorry, what? You know, I'm glad that they mentioned him, at least, you know. I don't know what happened to Hunnigan. I feel bad that she wasn't in it. I genuinely thought that was her voice from the trailer and from the beginning of the game. It was such a shock when it was actually Sherry, and I was like, oh, but it was a good shock because I really liked her from the previous games, so I'm happy that she grew up to, like, be a part of the RE universe still. Because the others always come back, like, and it's nice that she did. And then what else? Was there anybody else that was mentioned that could have been here? I don't think so. Game done. Game goog. If you ask me would I recommend it, yeah, I would. If not for the if you care nothing for the characters, at least for, like, the roller coaster ride of all of the fucking, like, areas that you get to play around in. I feel like it's got everything for everyone. It's got the fucking puzzles, it's got the platforming levels where you have to go up and down and find, you know, this for that, grab this to open this, you know. It's got waves of combat, one-on-one fights, stealth, using key codes. There was a random motorcycle level for that was quick, but it was so much fun because the pacing of it was perfect. We even got, like, the creepy, like, backstory of, like, child in an orphanage, you know, whatever. It's got everything. I think it had a little bit of everything for everyone. And the final boss, which was, I think that's also a good thing. I think the final boss part was also really, really, well, I wouldn't say it was well done. It went really quick. Even his second phase, I was like, that's it. I feel like Jill went through such a harder time fighting basically the same thing, and she had to use that fucking like laser gun that had to charge for how many fucking minutes just to blast through it. All Leon had to do was just pop like 10 zits and then it died. So I'm like, yeah, you were the villain. You were the final, yeah, sure. So there's that. I mean, although to be fair, when you compare some of the other enemies that we've had to encounter, like, there was a giant spider. I forgot about that. Oh my god, there was a giant fucking spider at one point. Mad Max zombie with the flaming chainsaw that we had to fight using another chainsaw. We were jousting when we were motorcycle. Like, did people just sit in the boardroom coming up with ideas and they were like, I watched A Knight's Tale or I watched two men jousting on horses. What if we turn that into a motorcycle? And the lances were actually guns. Or what if a zombie could pick up a chainsaw, but he's also on fire and the chainsaw's on fire? Oh, and he can swing 5 combos. Let's throw that in. It's like, what the fuck? Or, and then there's a giant flower and it can smack you 6 times. Like, where, who came up with these ideas? I like them. They were fun. They were unique. So yeah. Oh, and nurse. The nurse. I will say, good luck with the nurse if you play that, because I think she was the very first like monster we encountered, and oh my god, she was actually, I think, one of the scariest for me in this game, and she followed us to like pretty much the halfway point. Like we kept encountering her in different areas, and I kind of like that. It's like, oh, you think she's not the worst because she shows up. Usually when they show like first monsters, they're not that bad, but she was actually like, I was like, dude, get the fuck out of my face. I want to leave. You are scared. You make me want to cry. So there, that was pretty much it, yeah. Oh yeah, that too. The parrying system when you have to like fight, it was actually really clean. I pressed it like once you like figure out like the right I forget what the term is when you time the parry when the opening comes in, but and it was, and that axe can, I shouldn't mention, that axe can like parry anything. That axe somehow managed to parry the fucking mutant boss at the end's like entire fucking forearm when it came down with 2, and it was like this, and somehow he parried that, and I was like, make it make sense, but this is also a Japanese game, so I don't expect anything less, and I fucking love it. So thank you, because if they tried to make it too real, I would have been like, no, just let me parry everything. This is what I came for. I came here for nonsense. Oh, having many yeah, and yeah, there were so many, and I think that's what I like, because obviously in earlier games, or in most games, and I mentioned it before, it's like some enemies, they just do the same thing over and over, right? You get used to it, you're kind of like, okay, I'll just wait, and then it's kind of boring because you know what it's gonna do. But this one, or maybe, you know, again, could be biased because it's my first time experiencing this, but I feel like compared to the other games, they did a lot more different types of things at the same time, and I was like, oh wait, I wasn't ready for that. I thought you were gonna do that thing, and then they did it. Or the guy that I was 1v1ing, and I thought we were gonna keep parrying because we did that the first times, but then he ended up on the third time turning around and breaking the pipe and then turning everything into smoke, and I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And then next thing I know, he's like taking out his gun, and then when I take out my gun, then he goes back to knife, and I was like, how do you, I was like, you're reading my inputs and you're switching strategies. That's so cool. Like, thank you. So yeah, there's that. But then everybody else was kind of generic, so it's not to say that every single enemy is gonna like do something different. It's just like, it was nice to see that some of them did or didn't. So if you came here for this, or this is your first and last time watching me play a Resident Evil game, or this is your first time watching me or anybody play a Resident Evil game, I hope you enjoyed, and I appreciate everybody who popped in over the last 12 hours plus, because I have never played that long, and I think that goes to show that this game was, I've never played truly, and I don't know, I can't remember the last time I played a game. Maybe Baldur's Gate 3 was probably the last time, but a game that as soon as I played it and I touched it, it's like I didn't want to turn it off. I just kept wanting to keep going and going and going. So much that I didn't even, all I ate was like half an orange and like this thermos of coffee for 12 hours. I only went and I only got up to pee once, and my body was fine. I was just like, yeah, I'm good. So either I'm insane, or that just, you know, tells you what you need to know about this. So, and if you don't have the same experience, or you decide that, yeah, it's not really for you because maybe it is too big, maybe it is too tedious, some of the stuff, maybe the shooting and all of the combat is a little bit overwhelming or not enough, or maybe you prefer this or that. Everybody's gonna have, you know, their preference. So I just wanted to share what mine was after doing that. Also, it helps me later down the line if I ever do like stuff with my VODs or my content, or if I'm thinking about stuff, I'm like, I can look back on this and then remember why. But yeah, all right, we're done.